If you're making between $30,000 to $150,000 per year, do you have a better quality of life in the United States of America or in the great country of Canada? In this video, we will answer this question by a head-to-head battle of 10 rounds on the most important financial aspects of life affecting everyday citizen in both countries. I'm talking about income, housing, healthcare, taxes, and many other factors. So without further ado, let's get into it. So for the first round, we'll compare how much income do you have after taxes in both countries. At the time of this video, the average middle-class household in the United States has roughly $44,000 in after-tax income per person. In Canada, however, the number is 44,000 Canadian dollars. That is about 30,000 US dollars after conversion. And so, the average American has more money in its pockets after taxes, which gives the first win to America. Now let's compare the cost of housing. To make a realistic comparison, we will compare the house-to-income ratio. Basically, how expensive is a house compared to what the average household earns? At the time of this video, the average home price in the United States sits around $400,000, while average household income is roughly $75,000. This gives America a housing ratio of about 5.3. But if we look at Canada, the average home's costs are around 675,000 Canadian dollars, while household income sits near 85,000 Canadian dollars. That gives Canada a much higher ratio of roughly 7.9. In other words, for most Canadians, buying a house takes far more of their income compared to Americans, while houses in the US are already ridiculously expensive. Now let's move to the cost of owning a car. When you factor in things like car payments, insurance, fuel, maintenance, registration fees, repairs, and depreciation, the average cost of owning a vehicle in the United States is around $1,300 per month. In Canada, it lands closer to around 1,700 Canadian dollars monthly, which is about 1,200 US dollars after conversion. But even though the converted cost is slightly lower for Canadians at the time of this video, cars take up a bigger share of the average Canadian family's net income. Remember, Canadians generally take home less money after taxes than Americans. Gas prices tend to be higher in Canada, insurance costs can be rough in some provinces, and long winters, among many things, can increase maintenance expenses by a lot. So when you compare affordability relative to income, middle-class Americans usually have an easier time carrying car costs. So this one is closer than the first two rounds, but overall, the advantage still goes to the United States. So yes, after 3 rounds, America has a 3-0 lead. But there are still 7 rounds, so sit tight. Let's move to healthcare costs. Healthcare is probably the biggest difference people think about when comparing Canada and the United States. America is known for expensive medical bills and private insurance, while Canada is famous for publicly funded healthcare. But what does that actually mean for a middle-class family in reality? At the time of this video, a middle-class American family of 4 can easily spend around $900 or more per month, based on multiple sources, when you combine insurance premiums, deductibles, co-pays, prescriptions, dental coverage, vision care, and employer healthcare contributions. Not only that, but even people with decent insurance still end up paying a lot out of pocket when they go to the hospital. In Canada, however, basic healthcare is publicly funded, meaning doctor visits and hospital care are largely covered through taxes. Families still spend money on things like dental care, vision, prescriptions, and private add-ons depending on the province, but the average costs are closer to around 350 Canadian dollars per month for the average Canadian, which is about 250 US dollars. Now yes, wait times in Canada can sometimes be longer for certain procedures. And yes, healthcare quality arguably varies a lot in both countries. But when we're strictly talking about cost to a middle-class family, Canada wins pretty comfortably here. So the US leads 3-1 for now. Round 5. Cost of living. Now let's talk about everyday cost of living. We're talking groceries, clothes, electronics, household items, and all the good stuff we like to buy. At the time of this video, prices for many everyday consumer goods are often cheaper in the United States. Groceries tend to cost less, especially things like meat, dairy alternatives, snacks, and packaged foods. Electronics are usually cheaper too, partly because America has a larger market and more competition. Even clothing often comes at lower prices. Canadians also deal with higher import costs, a smaller market size, and higher sales taxes in many provinces compared to most American states. And if you've ever talked to Canadians near the border, you've probably heard stories about people driving to the US just to shop for cheaper products. It's that massive. Though you'll without a doubt find exceptions in Canada if you search for them, overall the US has a cheaper cost of living. And so for round 5, the US takes the victory. And speaking of cost of living, if you're serious about your finances and you want to increase your savings, I suggest you take a look into budget planners. These notebooks will help you track your income, but more importantly, your current expenses, and illustrate where you can save extra money every month and start tracking your progress. That's more money for you to save, spend on vacation, or even invest. In the video description, you'll find links if you want to order some for yourself on Amazon. Using one of them would directly support the channel as well. Now let's get back to round 6. We will here focus on childcare and education. This one is probably the least comparable of the list. When we talk about daycare, school supplies, after-school programs, college and university, Canada takes the lead. Let me briefly explain. At the time of this video, childcare costs in the United States can easily reach $1,000 to $2,000 per month per child, depending on the city. In Canada, government-supported childcare programs have lowered costs in many provinces. In some places, parents are paying closer to 10 to 20 Canadian dollars per day, depending on availability and provincial policies. That leads to 200 to 500 Canadian dollars per month. And that's just the beginning. When we go toward higher education, college costs in the United States can be incredibly expensive, even for public universities. In America, college costs can easily be between $30,000 to more than $60,000 per year. Compare this to Canada, where the costs are usually between $4,000 to $10,000 Canadian dollars per year, and you can see the two countries are day and night. So Canada takes the win here. Now let's talk about something most people like: days off. More precisely, paid days off and paid parental leave. The United States is actually one of the few wealthy countries with no federally guaranteed paid vacation time. Now, to be fair, many American employers still offer paid vacation, especially for middle-class jobs. But technically, there is no nationwide guarantee. Some workers get great benefits, while others barely get any paid time off at all. Canada is different. Workers generally receive guaranteed paid vacation by law, but parental leave is where the difference really shows. Canadian parents can access extended maternity and parental leave programs, often lasting many months, supported through government systems. In the United States, parental leave is far more limited, and many families end up returning to work much sooner than they would like. So without a doubt, Canada wins here, making it only 4-3 for the US over Canada now. Next, retirement. Because ideally, after decades of working, you would probably like some level of financial security, especially if you're not a heavy investor. So we're going to look at the minimum that both nations give you if you didn't invest much in your retirement accounts. In America, retirement depends heavily on personal responsibility. Programs like Social Security exist, but for many Americans, retirement success relies on things like 401ks, IRAs, pensions, or other personal investments. If you don't save consistently while you're in the job market, your retirement will be a financial mess. When it comes to Canada, the country also has its share of private savings options, but its retirement system includes stronger guaranteed support through programs like the Canada Pension Plan and Old Age Security, which give retirees a more stable baseline income, often exceeding 1,800 Canadian dollars per month, which is about 1,200 US dollars at the time of this video. It's not luxury living by any means, but for middle-class people who didn't aggressively invest, it's better than what you would get in the US. So after 8 rounds, both countries share a 4-4 tie. Let's move to the 9th point, the best job market for a middle-class person. It's great to be in the middle class, but what if you want to level up? This is where America is in a different league. America has a much larger economy with more industries, more major companies, and more high-paying sectors. Tech, finance, healthcare, engineering, entertainment, entrepreneurship, manufacturing, energy, and so much other things that Canada simply can't compete with. This is why high Canadian earners go to the US and not the inverse. Canada has a strong job market, but simply not the one of the US, so America takes the win here. And finally, let's talk about monthly savings, meaning after taxes, housing, cars, healthcare, groceries, childcare, and everyday bills, who actually has more money left over in general? At the time of this video, when average middle-class household finances are compared across both countries, Americans generally end up saving more money each month. They have higher after-tax income, they have cheaper housing compared to their earnings, they have lower consumer prices, and the stronger wages often outweigh the higher healthcare costs they have to pay. And this matters a ton because savings means options. I'm talking about vacations, emergency funds, investments, home upgrades, retirement contributions, or just peace of mind. And so in the final round, the advantage goes to the United States for a final score of 6-4 over Canada. And so the conclusion is quite simple in my opinion. If your main goal is maximizing earnings, building wealth faster, finding higher paying jobs, and potentially saving more money every month, the United States is your country. But if you want a bigger safety net and less stress going to the emergency room, Canada is your place to call home. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and subscribe for more content. In the meantime, why not watch one of the videos showing on your screen right now? I'll see you on the next one.